Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. We find often curious, contradictory situations where our rights apparently have no meaning as far as the reality is concerned. And especially when we find that our cherished rights are in fact nothing but are being held to ransom by the interested parties. Yesterday, somebody sent me a few videos and the pictures, and they were very interestingly of two groups, both inimical to each other and but now joining hands. It was Kashmiris, pseudo Kashmiris. As a matter of fact, I verified, and none of them is a Kashmiri Muslims, and some Khalistanis sects raising slogans at the time of India's Independence Day celebration. And the slogans were absolutely meaningless, but then they had to raise the slogans. Most interesting slogan was Indian Army, get out of Kashmir. And the Sikhs were shouting, Indian Army, get out of Khalistan. Now, where is Khalistan? I tried to look with a microscope on the map of the world and I tried to look at the list of the countries compiled by the various organizations and the members of the UNO. I couldn't find Khalistan anywhere. Then I tried to look at Kashmir, and I found Kashmir is a state, is a province in India. So if Indian army is there, how is it that they should say Indian army get out of Kashmir since Kashmir is a part of India? And Khalistan is neither a state in existence, nor in concept, nor anywhere. Of course, I am aware that there was a moment for Khalistan and that petered out. And today, the people of Punjab do not want it. But some political Sikhs in Canada, in USA, and in England keep on harping these things. Now, is that a freedom of expression? Is it a hate speech? Or is it a prelude to terrorism? These are the questions that face us. Well, if they want to shout slogans, that is their right to do so. Right or wrong, we can always argue about the merit of the case. But if somebody says that they want to colonize Mars, they have perfect freedom to do that. Why Mars? They can go and colonize Venus and Neptune and Jupiter and any planet and call it Khalistan. Nobody would object. But the second part of the protest, trampling on the national flag of India, is not freedom of speech. That is a hate speech. And secondly, even the government of Canada falters here. When Prime Minister Harper was asked that why does he permit these minuscule groups of 10 and 15 people shouting slogans, he said, well, in our country we have freedom of speech. But if that leads to violence, that leads to division, then the mighty force of law would descend on them. Great. We say that hate speech is something which hurts others. Now, those Indians who are patriotic, who love their country of origin, though they have migrated here, their souls might still be there, and who feel perturbed when the national flag, which they revered at one time, and the association doesn't die with migration, they feel aggrieved. Why should it not be construed as a hate speech and those people arrested for that, prosecuted for that? If one can be prosecuted for saying X word against any other religion or community, isn't the use of this hate speech criminal? And not only, it's an action. Trampling on the national flag is bound to result in violence, in fight, in rioting. So these people deserve punishment, not for saying that they want Indian army out of Kashmir. Well, that we can smile away. But trampling on the national flag is something different. It's a hate speech. And now you must be considering why I said prelude to terrorism. Because of this curious combination of these two opposing factions. There was a time when the Muslim invaders like Ahmad Shah Abdali had put prices on the heads of the Sikhs. Each head cut off the body brought to Abdali was given 80 rupees. The person who brought the head would get 80 rupees. There was the governor of Punjab, Zakaria, famous. There was another Manu. Sikhs coined a proverb or a saying that Manu was a sickle cutting Sikhs, but the Sikhs grew manifold even after the cutting. So they were intrinsically anti each other. And the worst symptom was seen in the partition when Sikhs massacred Muslims and Muslims massacred Sikhs. It shook the conscience of the world, and even movies and novels have been made on it, of course. Those made in Pakistan would blame the Sikhs, and those blame in India would blame the Muslims. That's something different. But the fact is that they have been enemies for 500 years. And now they come together because their interests are common. Enemies, your friend. And as a matter of fact, it's not even enemy, it is prejudice which combines them. Now, I would ordinarily ignore it. But the second news which comes right after that, that perturbs Afghanistan government with the consent of Loyola Jirga, that's the Grand Assembly on Sunday, that's day before yesterday, approved the release of 400 Taliban people who have been convicted of crimes and had been sentenced to death. Actually, there are 5,000 Taliban prisoners even today. Out of that, they want to release 400 prisoners. Out of these, 44 are listed in USA and other countries as security concerns for their high profile attacks. 150 are accused of killing civilians and foreigners, including a truck bombing near the German embassy that killed more than 150 people. And now the government is releasing them in a process, they call it a peace process. And who are these Taliban? They are a part of Haqqani network. And Haqqani network was found by a chief mentor of Osama bin Laden, Jalaluddin Haqqani. Now his son, Sirajuddin, is the current head and has close ties to Al Qaeda. And Al Qaeda is poised to destroy India. The Haqqani network is responsible for the worst attacks in Afghanistan and Al Qaeda in India. Now, releasing these 400 prisoners would be difficult. The records show that whenever these people have been released, they have returned to fight, indulge in the acts of terrorism. And now, when Sikh extremists and the Muslim extremists come nearby, is there any guarantee that these people would not join hands with the Sikhs? Their purpose is to destroy their perceived Hindu country, which is not a Hindu country, which is a country without a religion. They call it secular. I would say there's no state religion. A country where state and the church are absolutely different. So they want to return to that country. And these two groups, minuscule, small, but very vocal, very violent. So, what is there going to be the barrier to these criminals coming together and creating mayhem in India? Now, the plea being taken about the release is that it was lawyer Jirga which decided it. It's democratic process. And what is lawyer Jirga? Are you aware? This is an assemblage of 3,200 regional leaders, politicians, and community leaders who represent the total population. So it is democratic, all right. But is it desirable? Or is it precursor to a new wave of terrorism? Now, which are the countries likely to be affected by this? The first country to be affected would be India. The second country to be affected would be USA. The third country, which can be a possible victim, can be Israel, and then followed by France, Germany, England, others. I return to my original concern. Should we permit the freedom of expression to degenerate into hate speech and further down to a precursor to terrorist activity? There's $1 million question facing the civilized society. Government of Canada is failing miserably, absolutely miserably, in controlling these malcontents. As I said earlier, I have absolutely no grounds. Let them keep on shouting. But when the bark turns into a possible bite, then preventive steps have to be taken. And it's high time the government of Canada, at least with all its professions and claims of being peaceful, wakes up and does something. Unfortunately, the government indirectly favors them because they are the vote catchers. They are not the vote banks, but that the creators of the vote banks. They terrify people either by persuasion or by other means, and the government gets the votes. But then, if India was to be ruled by a person who was extremely, I'm saying, incapable of tolerating this nonsense, maybe that country would have said, okay, if you can't control them, we have no relationship. It should be purely on diplomatic affairs, and we stop it. On its part, of course, I remember the action taken by the former Consul General, Akhilesh Mishra. Jagmeet had presented his request for visa, and Akhilesh happened to talk to me, and I told him very clearly, no, don't give visa. And the visa was not given, of course. He must have taken all facts in consideration. So the leader of the third largest party, national party, is on the no-fly list as far as India is concerned. As a matter of fact, India would be within its responsibilities and its rights to ban the entry of all these people who are instigating the trouble, who are the creators, sustainers, and are in fact the agent provocateurs. But is that enough? No. India has also got to see that the Taliban being released, that Al Qaeda and Haqqani group people being released, do not come even near the frontier. And in that way, they can take a leaf from the book of Israelis. You remember the Israelis hunted Nazi criminals, even kidnapped them like each man, and hanged them. And that caused a wave of fear to go through the spine of these criminals. These criminals need to be treated with iron hands. Diplomatic niceties and voice declarations are not sufficient. What is required is action that would make these people realize that they are persona non grata, that their activities are harmful to the country where they are living and its friendly relations with other countries, that they are inimical to a civilized society and they would not be tolerated. Would the governments do that? That's my poser. Let's wait and watch. But action is the need of our imperative, quick, lightning action. That is the requirement. Any delay can be harmful. Thank you.